All right, guys, so you should have watched that visual learning. So now what we're going to do is we're going to head on to some practice together. So what I have here is some examples that I'm going to do for my EnVision math book. So here it's asking me to do two things. It's asking me to use number names, but it's also asking me to use numerals. So numerals meaning I write that number out. So here, let's do my numerals first, and you'll see why after, why I'm doing my numerals first. So I have a 9 in that hundreds thousands. I have a 6 in the 10,000s, so that's just that next spot over. I have a 3 in the thousands. I have a 1 in the hundreds. But now notice, there's no tens here. So if there's no tens, what number represents no? Well, that's a 0. So I'm going to put a 0 in. Then I have a 4 in my ones place value. So that is my numeral, but now it wants me to write the number name. So number name means I'm just going to write out in words what this number is. So what number is this? This is 9. And then remember, what I'm doing is I'm going to say this whole thing first between commas. So what is that number between the first comma? That's 963. And then after that comma, remember, I'm going to say the place value that it's in. So these are my thousands groupings. So it's 963,000. And now I say this next grouping. So this next grouping, what is that? Well, that is a 100. There's no tens, so it's just 104. Some people might say 104, and that is okay as well. So that is my number name. Let's head to our next problem, number 2. So number 2 says, what is the greatest number that has 1 comma? So it's going to have 1 comma when written with numerals and with number names. So let's check. That means it needs to have at least 4 place values because it has this comma here. But it wants the biggest number. So can I keep going until I get to my next comma? Yeah, but it only wants 1 comma, so I'm not going to be using this one right here. So what do I have here? I have 6 place values. What's the biggest number I could put in? If I put in a 1, you'll notice I can get even bigger by putting in a 2. But is there an even bigger number I can put in? What about a 9? That's the biggest number I can put in each place value. So my biggest number as a numeral is 999,999. But it also says it wants me to do that with the number name. So I'm going to write that out. 999 with that hyphen between. And then I need to say that place value. So what is this place value grouping that it's in? So this is my thousands period. So 999,000. And it's a long one. And then it's just 999 again. And man, it's hard to write on an iPad. So that's good. So now we're going to head off to number 3. So number 3 says write an expanded form. An expanded form is what we did over here. Is writing it out with each place value with the addition between. So that would be a 7,000 plus, and I've done that place value. So now I go to the next one, which is 300, plus my next place value, which is a 20, plus 0. Now, I don't have to put that 0 in, so if I want to, I could leave it just like this. Either answer, though, would be okay. Heading off to our next one, number 4. It says write 55,426 using number names. Well, I just said it here, so I'm going to look at this first grouping. 55, since that's between my comma in front of it, so I'm going to put 55. And then what period or what grouping is it with that comma? That's my thousands place value. So it's 55,000 And then my next grouping is this right here. So I'm going to write 426. That is my number name with it. Heading off to our next one now. We have, in a recent year, 284,604 fans attended the hockey playoffs. What digit is in the thousands place in 284,604? Well, it's asking for my thousands place, so I'm going to underline that keyword. And now I'm going to be looking for my thousands. Remember, we have ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. So it's asking what digit is that. So I see that is a 4. So a 4 is in my thousands place value. Okay, let's head to our next one. Okay, heading on down. So heading on down, it says write the number using number names. Record the number in the place value chart. So I'm actually, for myself, I'm going to record it in the place value chart first. So I'm actually going to start on the right. So I put a 9 here. Then I'm in my second place value, which is a 2. There's nothing in the third place value. So notice how it goes from 2 place values to 4. So what number represents nothing? That's a 0. Then I have a 6 in that fourth place value. I have a 1 in the fifth place value. And I have a 3 in that last place value. So there is my number. So what number is that? Well, remember, I'm going to read it in groupings. I'm going to read it between each comma, or in this case, I'm going to read it between each color. There's nothing in the millions, so I don't need to worry about that. So now I'm going to write that first grouping here, that first color. So that's 316. And then what grouping is that in? That's in my thousands. So I'm going to put 316,000. And then I go to this next grouping. This next grouping is just 29. And remember, when I'm in this grouping, the green one or the grouping on the far right, I don't put that name right here. I don't put ones. So we really just use it for thousands and millions. So it's 316,029. And there it is. We recorded it, and we wrote the number using number names. So here's our next one. Write each number in expanded form. So remember, expanded form is where we break up by place value, and we have the addition sign between them. So here I have 7,000 with that comma, plus 600, plus 20, plus 2. Notice how I broke it up into each place value. Okay, my next one. I have 200,000, plus my next place value is 90,000, plus my next place value is 4,000. And since I'm being crushed over into this side, I'm going to just bring it down here. Plus 100, plus 60. And then since this is a 0, I don't have to add that part if I don't want to. So now, on to number 9. So I have this first place value, which is 40,000, broken up with that plus sign, plus 3,000, plus 700. Oops. And jump to my next page. Let me get it back for us, guys. Plus 700, plus, and again, since there's nothing here, I don't have to use that place value since 0 means nothing, so plus 2. Okay, this next one says write the number names, so that means I'm writing it out. So my first period, so that first comma is 1,000, and then my next one is what? 688. Excellent job, guys. So now this next one, again, I break it up into that first period. I'm not sure why they call it that, but it's just the area between the commas. So that's 300, oops, and I was going to write it out for us. That's 300 31, and then what period is in? That's in my thousands. And then I write this next grouping, so that's 872. All right, and our last one, you'll notice this one's all fours, so it's going to be 44,000, since it's in my thousands grouping. Oops, and it did it again, so let me pull it back. 44,444. Okay, so now we just have these ones to practice at the bottom, which is some word problem ones. So we're going to think about what it's asking us for each one. So here it says, Latito wrote 1,200. So I'm going to write out what she did. 1,204. So notice it doesn't say 40, it just says 4. So that means there must be no tens in a place value chart. What mistake did she make? Well, her mistake we can see is that she didn't put that 4 in there. So she put in the 10 spot. So we're going to put this for our answer. She put the 4 in the tens place value and not the ones place value. Okay, and since that's a complete sentence, we do need that period. Okay, number 14. It says in 2016, the world's oldest tree was 5,066 years old. Write the number that is 100 more using number names. Well, look at this. I have 5,066, and it wants it to be 100 more. So that means I'm adding 100 to it. So what would that number be? 100 more would be 5,166. But it wants us to use number names. So it wants us to write this guy out. So I have 5,000. And then my next grouping is 166. All right, number 15. Jessica wants to buy a new team jacket that costs $35. If Jessica saves $5 a week for 4 weeks and $4 a week for 3 weeks, will she have enough to buy the money? Explain. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my math to check. So she's saving $5 for 4 weeks. So that would be week 1 plus week 2 plus week 3 plus week 4. So there's my 4 weeks, $5. And then she saves $4 a week for 3 weeks. So that's 3 weeks, $4 1 week, week 2, week 3. Does she have enough? Well, let's check. 5 plus 5 is 10. 5 plus 5 is 10. 4 plus 4 is 8 plus 4. So now we can add that up. We would have 20 and 12. So what is 20 plus 12? That would be 32. Does she have enough? Well, if you'll notice, she needed 35. So we would put no, she does not have enough. Okay. And our explanation is our math right here. We're going to work on later on in the year how we would explain that using words, but for today, our explanation is that portion with just the math. Here's our next one. Drew wrote the following sentences. A period is a group of any three digits in a number. Do you agree with Drew? If not, how would you correct him? So let's check. So he says a period is a group of any three-digit numbers. So remember, this was our what? This was our millions period, this was our thousands period, and this was our ones period. So he said it's a group of any three digits in a number. So it seems like it makes sense. 3, 3, 3, there's a group of three digits, or 2, 2, 2, there's a group of three digits. But he's actually wrong. So tell me, would this be a period? 2, 3, 2. There's three numbers, but is that a period? No, because it's in the thousands period and the ones period. So we do not agree with him. So we're going to put I do not agree with Drew. And why is that? Well, I'm going to put the reasoning next. So I do not agree with Drew, and I'm going to use the because. So I'm going to take that period off that I had. Because, and why is it? Because a group of three numbers could belong in two periods. Again, I don't know why they call them periods, but that's what they do. Number 17 now, higher order thinking. So these are our hard ones. Two numbers have the same digit in the millions period, same digits in the thousands period, and the same digits in the ones period. Do these two numbers have the same value? Well, let's check. So I have two groups. And it's saying two numbers have the same digit in the millions period. So let's check. Our millions period is right here. So we're going to put the same number, I'll say 3. The same digits in the thousands period. So let's pick another number. I'm going to say 5. And the same digits in the ones period. So let's just pick 1. Now, here's our tricky part. It says in the ones period. So it's not just the one place value, but it's the same throughout all of the period. You'll notice it's that same thing here, same digits in the thousands period. So it's the same in all of them. And then it says have the same digit in the millions period. So yeah, are these numbers the same? So we would say yes, they have the same value. Okay, we have 2 more, guys. You're doing excellent. So we have Wallace writes the numbers 72,204 in a place value chart. Select the places that will be filled in the chart. Well, does she do ones? Yeah. Does she do the tens? Yeah. Even though it's a 0, she still on that place value chart has to put that in. What about the thousands? Yeah. Our next one is the 10,000s. Does she put anything in the 100,000s? No, there's no 100,000. So that one's going to be our blank one. Our last question. Krista wrote 6,014 in expanded form. Select all the values Krista wrote. Well, that will be 6,000 plus, and I don't have anything for the hundreds, so then my next place value is a 10, and my next place value is a 4. So I'm going to see which one of these there are. So I see a 6,000 here. I see a 4 here, and I see a 10 here. The reason why we're not picking this one is there was no hundreds, and 14, remember, we have to break it up into its place values. All right, So that's it for your first math lesson. You're now going to work on your practice buddy. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.